Today's video is a little weird because I'm not reporting on it because I believe it will happen. It's more like entertaining the idea, what if this ends up happening and what it could mean, and also how Apple desperate is to break into the gaming market outside of just smartphone, Candy Crush games. Let's begin. So this report mainly came from the verifier, and I'm not acting like this is new, okay? I know this happened many weeks ago, but essentially in this report they talked about the Apple TV 6 alongside an Apple dedicated gaming controller and Apple upping the stakes with Apple Arcade and introducing like a new higher tier of Apple Arcade called Arcade Plus, which first when I read that I was like, this is stupid, I don't want to talk about it, but it stuck with me. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how weird and how trippy this could end up being, and yet at the same time almost sounds like something Mr. Tim would be cooking up. So it's not weird to find out Apple wants to put another plus on some branding, but it is weird considering normal Apple Arcade costs $5 a month, and typically Apple doesn't do like, here's this paid service, and then on top of that here's a more expensive service called Arcade Plus that would be, I don't know, $10 a month or $15 a month or whatever, and essentially Arcade Plus would be granting you access to higher class games, which I've yet to see a business model where I think this would work, but the reason I feel like it's something Apple might end up doing is because Apple Arcade, as it stands right now, is really heavily optimized for games that are built for touch. I know they support game controllers, but it feels like such a back burner last minute suggestion at the end. Oh, I guess we need controller support, and they're very much optimized for iPhone and the iPad. I've tried to play a lot of different arcade games on the Mac, and it just, it does not work very well, and gaming has not been an extremely popular sector with the Apple TV either, and that's probably a shame because Apple has put all this energy and all this effort into trying to make the Apple TV this, console competitor, even though it's still kind of expensive for a TV box. They want tvOS to be this platform where, yeah, you can watch Apple TV Plus and even do some online shopping, but they want to put some Apple custom silicon in there that can allow it to do some next generation gaming stuff that typically for a box that small is a little bit hard to do. But then you remember Apple TV 4K edition is just about as old as the Apple Watch Series 3, where I did a whole video on that explaining how old it is. They essentially haven't touched the Apple TV since 2017, and personally, I'd be very shocked to find out that they waited all this time. They waited 3 to 4 years to refresh it just so that they could be like, here's the exact same TV box, here's the exact same Siri remote, and now it has a slightly faster chip. Alright, thanks for coming, everybody. No, I feel like there's definitely gonna be a new approach, a new angle. I'm not saying it's a good one. I'm not saying this will be super successful, but my prediction here is that Apple wants to get in on the same success that Nintendo is having with the Switch, Sony is having with the PS5, Microsoft is having with the Xbox. They want to be a major console competitor, and they probably think they can be because of how next generation their silicon is, as we saw with the 5nm M1 chip, and they want to see if they can get some kind of next generation but still relatively affordable silicon into a little streaming box that is probably going to end up being way smaller and way more built around wireless connectivity compared to the Xbox or the PlayStation, and they feel like the typical Apple Arcade titles that we see on our iPhones and iPads are just not really going to be enough, and Arcade Plus could perhaps be Apple's way of trying to break into the AAA game title sector, which again, I really don't know how successful that's going to end up being, but I could totally see Apple partnering with certain game studios trying to get exclusives on that platform and perhaps launching this new Apple TV 6 later in the year, and it's going to have a significantly better GPU than the current Apple TV, and through high intensive graphics and an Apple custom designed game controller, they're going to try to be like, we are a major player, please take us seriously. Because they tried really hard last time. I remember in 2017 when they unveiled the 4K Apple TV, the fact that it could output at 4K was kind of the biggest feature, and then on top of that, they were trying to be like, see, the Siri remote can be like a Wii remote, and yeah, we have Minecraft on the Apple TV now, but no one ended up playing it, so they discontinued support for that, and now, games on the Apple TV, I get it, there's some of you watching that are like, I do that, but it's not that common of a thing. It's just, in a market sense, most people are using their Apple TV for TV, not games, and that's why for years I've been suggesting Apple to make a non-gaming version of the Apple TV, where it can be just a stick, like the rest of the industry has moved on with, just a little stick you plug into the back of your TV, you got tvOS, TVS, and you can watch your shows in 4K, HDR, Dolby Atmos. And for those who care about high-intensive gaming, okay, you have a $200 TV box you can buy, but put some kind of lowbrow cheap chip in there that can basically play the high resolution content, but that's about it. And probably try to get it under $100 so that you could at least be a bit similar to the Fire TVs and the Rokus of the world. But the fact they haven't released a streaming stick yet, but they do have time for a HomePod mini of some sort, makes me think that they're not giving up on this console idea. You know, they had the Pippin, that never worked out. The 4K Apple TV's not really working out, but they're not quitting yet. And honestly, when I started messing around with the new PlayStation 5 controller myself, I was really impressed with the haptics in the sides and the triggers adjusting their sensitivity. And it made me think a lot about how Apple has kind of pioneered the Taptic engine and how they kind of revolutionized how quiet and yet effective taptics within devices could potentially be. And I honestly would love to see Apple design and release their own game controller, because seeing how intuitive and how interactive and immersive the PS5 controller can be, I'm like, man, I bet Apple is kind of jealous that they didn't come up with this first, because they would much rather have a kind of futuristic modern controller that gets you really immersed in what's going on in the gameplay. And Apple has been a king of haptic feedback over the years, so if they're designing their own controller, I bet it would be, for one, very expensive and made of high quality materials, but at the same time probably have great taptics, probably some type of proprietary charging method. But if they're launching something that can take direct advantage of a lot of Arcade Plus titles, that's the one part of this Verifier report that almost sounds believable to me. Them talking about having a dedicated Apple TV event in the third or fourth quarter of this year and just going all in on exclusive game titles and subscription services, but at the same time you get to enjoy that sweet Apple taptics. And there will probably be a certain demographic of Apple sheep that love tvOS and love playing Apple Arcade titles. We're never really going to know how well typical Apple Arcade is doing, because Apple doesn't disclose that information, and also they keep offering me free trials even though I've already used a 30-day trial and canceled it and didn't subscribe. Every month they're just like, hey, you can get 3 months for free, Drew, come on, keep doing it. So that makes me think it's probably not doing too well, but they're not giving up easily. And if Apple really wanted to get people involved, I could totally see them doing something where this next generation Apple TV 6 is going to be rocking an A14X chip or something like that inside, and when you buy one you get like a free year of Apple Arcade, and maybe you get Arcade Plus for like $5 a month. And through the services model, that's how Apple tries to be more price competitive with everybody else. It'd be interesting, and I'm kind of curious to see how Apple would do it. But at the end of the day, if you had to ask me, do I think this is going to happen? Probably not, and the Verifier's reports are usually a bit spotty. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But I'm curious what you guys think, because I'm wondering if as many people out there think this could be a colossal train wreck, but an interesting one to watch nonetheless. So of course, feel free to let me know what you're thinking down in the comments below. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you guys in the next one.